Hello, and welcome to Healthcare Finance Unit 2. In this unit, we will be discussing the financial healthcare environment. The top 4 learning objectives for Unit 2 are: articulate the key differences between for-profit and not-for-profit businesses. List the key features of insurance. Describe the major types of third-party payers. And explain how clinical and procedural coding affects reimbursement. Now remember, as mentioned in Unit 1, these are the top 4 learning objectives which we will focus on for this week. Other learning objectives which you are responsible for understanding can be found within the classroom page. Articulate the key differences between for-profit and not-for-profit businesses. Just as there is a variety of healthcare settings, such as hospitals, clinics, urgent care centers, etc., there are different business structures as well. These structures include for-profit and not-for-profit entities. While there are multiple aspects that differentiate the two, the key takeaway to understand is how each entity handles their profits. A for-profit entity pays out profits to stockholders, while a not-for-profit entity reinvests profits back into the business. You may be thinking, wait a second, I see nonprofit hospitals expanding all the time, billing and collecting high-dollar procedures. How are they a nonprofit if they make all that money? Well, it's true. Many nonprofit hospitals are extremely effective businesses, and that's exactly what allows them to keep their doors open to serve patients. Remember, adding buildings, adding employees, ensuring accurate and timely collection from payers and patients, all of that plays into the goal of a nonprofit hospital being able to reinvest money back into the business so they can keep operating at maximum efficiency. It is also important to note, for-profit entities also reinvest profits back into the business. However, that is not the primary way that their profits are handled. Both for-profit and not-for-profit entities are held responsible by internal and external bodies. A for-profit entity is responsible to stock or shareholders. These individuals own stock or shares in the business and receive financial gain. They may also have a say in how the business operates and makes decisions. A non-for-profit entity is responsible to stakeholders, individuals who have a non-financial returning stake in the entity. Examples of stakeholders include donors, volunteers, employees, and of course, patients. A similarity between for-profit and not-for-profit entities is that they both are typically guided by a board of directors. As you will learn from your readings this week, there are also key differences in how for-profit and not-for-profit entities are taxed. To summarize, for-profit entities are taxed on earnings before dividends are distributed. Once those dividends are distributed to stockholders, the stockholders also pay taxes on that money. So essentially, for-profit entities are taxed twice on income. Not-for-profit entities are typically exempt from taxes, including income, property, and sales taxes. Additionally, when donations are made to a not-for-profit entity, those funds are tax deductible for the donor. List the key features of insurance. There are 4 distinct characteristics of insurance: pooling of losses, payment only for random losses, risk transfer, and indemnification. So what do these mean? Pooling of losses refers to spreading losses over a large group of individuals. In other words, it is advantageous for an insurance company to have a larger pool of insured individuals rather than a small number. If you think about it, who are the major players in the insurance industry? Consider the sheer volume of individuals they insure, and the concept of pooling losses will be even more clear. A random loss is just that, a loss that occurs at random, and not one that is forecasted or predicted. Risk transfer simply refers to the insurance company taking on the risks of the individual. Indemnification refers to payment by the insurance company to the provider on behalf of the insured individual. Third-party payers are insurance companies that reimburse healthcare organizations and providers. Payers can be classified into 2 categories, public and private. Public payers include Medicare, Medicaid, and TRICARE, while private payers include companies like Blue Cross Blue Shield, United Healthcare, Aetna, Cigna, and others. Explain how clinical and procedural coding affects reimbursement. When claims are submitted to third-party payers, accurate clinical and procedural coding is essential to ensuring timely reimbursement. The majority of healthcare providers utilize a fee-for-service pay structure. Under this model, a provider may submit a claim for reimbursement to an insurer that includes multiple ICD codes. Reimbursement rates can vary depending on the type of encounter, procedure, and patient condition. For example, let's look at a patient who is part of a PPO, or Preferred Provider Organization. This patient is going to visit an orthopedic specialist for chronic pain in her shoulder. For her first visit, the claim is submitted with codes for a first encounter, exam, and a steroid injection. Over the next year, this patient does not find pain relief and continues to visit the specialist for continued injections and exams. At some point, depending on the level of her coverage, the PPO may reduce the amount of reimbursement per code or decline reimbursement entirely. At that point, the services rendered would be the responsibility of the patient to pay. It's now time to dive in and further explore the topics covered in Unit 2. Remember to do the following. Watch supplemental videos, complete assigned and suggested readings, and review discussion and assignment instructions. This concludes the presentation content for Unit 2.